this is completely wild. Like, this is just practically making me speechless. But we have to talk about the biggest leak that's ever happened at E3. It sounds like a major publisher has accidentally let slip their entire press conference about 3 weeks early. And the first details of it are starting to hit the internet, which seems like a Dark Souls-style Final Fantasy game is coming very, very soon, and only to the PlayStation 5. What's up, gamers? Dreamcastguy here, and I want to just break down this timeline and talk about why I think that this is an incredibly big deal, and I think that this might be a very big and very important Final Fantasy game, especially when we're talking about the fact that it's a PlayStation 5 exclusive is just an additional bombshell. Now, all of this began just a couple hours ago when there was this cryptic tweet that randomly appeared. This is a games journalist for RPG site, and he says, there's one major publisher where I don't know how they've done it, but probably the most comprehensive big event leak I've seen in years is currently happening behind the scenes. Not just info, assets, footage, madness. Just a countdown till someone releases it. So basically what this guy was hinting is that sounds like maybe Square Enix put everything on like a media server and a bunch of journalists saw it. We're talking about huge chunks of it, maybe the entire thing, just a gigantic hour-long press conference uploaded as like an unlisted YouTube video or something. Like, this is just completely nuts. The fact that people are seeing it, initially, people were trying to guess who it was. Is this a Sony leak? Is this a Square Enix thing? Is this Microsoft or Nintendo? But now, it has been confirmed that it was Square, just accidentally letting all their secrets out. But the thing that's definitely causing the biggest ripples is now this newest report. Somebody that saw it is talking about a Dark Souls-style Final Fantasy game, oh my gosh, which is just nuts. Square Enix is set to announce a new action RPG spin-off for Final Fantasy. The game is set in the world of the first Final Fantasy game. This is nuts. I feel like some of you guys probably aren't able to grasp the gravitas of this. And I'm not even insulting gamers with this, but I'm just saying that this is a humongous freaking deal that I feel like people are not properly just losing their minds about. Now, I want to read this article, but real quickly, just start off with the fact that the world of the initial Final Fantasy, the first Final Fantasy game, is a freaking bombshell. This game is just top-notch. I mean, obviously, it created pretty much all standard modernized RPGs as we know them today. It kicked off decades of turn-based excellence. I mean, even if you look at things like the original freaking strategy guide, which of course I have because I'm obsessed with Final Fantasy, there is just so much art and depth and creativity that was untapped in this world. The fact that we're going back to this is such a freaking... I'm losing it. I'm absolutely losing it at the fact that we're going back to this world specifically. But let's talk about what it sounds like the gameplay is going to be great because it's made by the people at Ninja Theory. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Over the weekend, a number of rumors have been swirling around about a possible E3 announcement, as traditionally happened in the weeks leading up to the industry trade show. In a particular rumor, rumors swirled around about two websites, Reddit and ResetEra, saying that a Final Fantasy spin-off is coming this year. The rumor states that Square Enix is working with Team Ninja, the Koei Tecmo in-house developers who did stuff like Ninja Gaiden and Nioh, and perhaps most relevantly, their latest game was the Final Fantasy fighting game Dissidia NT. Now, I talked about that game recently. It's very, very quirky and weird, but here's the more important part. The posted rumors go on further by saying that the game is the genre akin to something like Nioh or a Dark Souls game, suggesting that it takes place somewhere or in adjacent to the world of Final Fantasy on the NES. If this leak turns out to be true, I'm serious when I say that this might be the biggest and best PlayStation exclusive. Like, if this turns out to be anywhere near the quality of Nioh 2, I think that Nioh 1 and Nioh 2 are incredibly top-notch games, and part of the reason is just that not only were they incredibly polished, not only were they super fun to defeat gigantic ancient Japanese gods and bosses and stuff, but I feel like they had this very rare sense of polish when it came to the difficulty and sanity of it. But I want to read a bit more of the article here because it actually talks a bit about the difficulty of it. Now, so one of the problems with Dark Souls and Nioh at times, like, I love the challenge of them. I love having to farm souls and upgrade my stuff and learn new magic and stuff, and sometimes just dying a lot can feel good in those games, but let's face facts. You and I, we're hardcore gamers. We don't mind getting just shoved into the dirt, ground into the pavement a little bit. I mean, we're totally fine with that. But a casual gamer, a more average, typical, random freaking person who watches Big Bang Theory all day long, they're probably not going to be as patient with that style of game. And it seems like Square Enix themselves realizes that, or at least it seems so. They talk about this right here where they say, expect the title to play similar to Nioh or other games in the genre, but to be more accessible for a wider audience. This is still being made by the people at Team Ninja, so it's going to have the Nioh DNA. Now you guys know that one of the things I love the most is a good demo. It's really fun to get a chance to play a game way before it comes out. That way you can make a more informed decision as to if it's worth the 60 or possibly $70 we're spending on it. And it sounds like we're actually getting a demo for this game relatively soon. The game, which appears to be exclusive to the PlayStation 5 with a PC release further down the road, will show at Square Enix Tentpoles' upcoming E3 show. For whatever reason, several large chunks of the undated June show have leaked out, including the name Final Fantasy Origins and demo plans. Square Enix hopes for an alpha demo this summer, not unlike Nioh's public alphas, with solicited feedback to make sure that it can actually be playable. This demo, like several other major demos, has its own title, Stranger in Paradise. Now, this to me is very, very cool, but it is also a bit funny because the name Final Fantasy Origin is very, very cool, but there's already a game called Final Fantasy Origin. Like, okay, so this is super old school. Only like hardcore Final Fantasy fans would know this, but there is already, they did a prequel a long time ago, which is a packaging together of Final Fantasy 1 and 2 on the PlayStation. Hey, check it out, it's Final Fantasy Origins. But you know what? I'll take it. This just seems like such a perfect combo that it's almost difficult to believe that it's real. Like, excuse myself if I get myself just overhyped, but I'm just so excited because I am a huge lover of Dark Souls, of that slower, more methodical combat, of action rolling and punishing hits. But additionally, my favorite series of all time is Final Fantasy. So seeing these things come together somehow, it just seems impossibly perfect. If this does turn out to be real, I'm going to completely lose my mind, and definitely I'm going to be making stuff about the demo. I'm going to be talking about this for a long time to come. It is a big freaking deal, and I hope that all of you are there to see it. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this just random freaking hype, give this video a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all, and keep dreaming. Additionally, I did just post a big review of Biomutant. I played it on the PlayStation 5, so if you're curious about a furry critter who's using a gigantic sword to kill people, well, there's that. Also, part of the reason I made this video is because I wanted to show off a bunch of my Final Fantasy collectibles, because I have everything of everything of everything Final Fantasy, and I have no regrets. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, you know, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.